In Littleton, Colorado, a Denver suburb, on April 20th, 1999, a shooting occurred at Columbine High School, with a total of 15 victims. The shooting is also known as the Columbine High School Massacre. 12 students and 1 teacher were killed by the shooters. Seniors Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, and over 21 other people were hurt. Klebold and Harris turned the weapons on themselves and killed themselves, putting an end to the killings. At the time, the shooting was the bloodiest school shooting in American history. So what led 2 teenagers to act in such a horrifying way? On April 9th, 1981, Eric Harris was born in Wichita, Kansas. Wayne, his father, was an American Air Force transport pilot who served in 6 sites in Ohio, Michigan, and New York, holding 11 different posts. Before Wayne Harris was forced to retire in 1993, owing to budget cuts and becoming a part-time caterer, this required the Harris family to relocate frequently. The family moved to Littleton, Colorado during this time in July and stayed there for 3 years in a rental home. He met Klebold when a student at Ken Carroll Middle School, and the 2 quickly grew close. Harris began attending Columbine High School in 1995, and the Harris family purchased a home close to Columbine the following year. Kevin, Eric's older brother, was a well-liked Columbine athlete and attended the University of Colorado at Boulder. When he met Tiffany Teifer in German class, and the 2 went to homecoming together during his first year at Columbine, the first indicators of his more antagonistic demeanor became apparent. When Teifer forbade Harris from seeing her again, Harris staged a fake suicide by sprawling out on the floor and covering himself in fake blood. Later, he inscribed her yearbook with "Ich bin Gott," which in German means "I am God." He and Klebold both obtained jobs at the neighborhood restaurant, Blackjack Pizza, that same year. It was there that they finally met Mark Maines, who would later sell them the TEC DC-9 semi-automatic weapon that was used in the massacre. Later, Wayne was moved by Harris's more erratic behavior to create a notebook detailing his son's emotional issues. Born on September 11, 1981, Dylan Klebold's mother, Susan, worked as an employment counselor, and his father, Tom, operated a modest real estate firm from his home. The Klebold family belonged to a Lutheran church, but they also followed some Russian Jewish customs, because Klebold's maternal grandfather was a follower. He was very active in sports when he was young. Klebold struggled with school, but after he met Eric Harris, the 2 grew close quickly. After Harris graduated from Columbine High School, Klebold followed, joining the behind-the-scenes teams for the school plays, videos, and news network. In their high school, Harris and Klebold were extremely unpopular pupils who frequently suffered homophobic taunts. Later, they started to bully other pupils. Harris and Klebold had written in their journals about how they had bullied fags and younger students. Klebold claimed that he made an effort to avoid picking on other people, which accords with more recent theories that Harris was the ringleader. Later, Harris started running a website where he shared his own doom and quake levels, the first-person shooters known for their extreme brutality and gore. The levels were thereafter referred to as Harris levels. In addition, Harris started writing personal essays about his family, friends, and school. However, as time went on, he also posted how-to guides for making homemade bombs and expressed his personal animosity towards people he knew, particularly teachers and fellow students at Columbine High School who bullied him and Klebold for years. When they discovered a murder threat against their son, the parents of one of Harris's classmates, Brooks Brown, filed a legal complaint against him in 1997. Harris had previously thrown a piece of ice at Brown's vehicle. In a subsequent book, Brown said that the occurrences happened after Harris, to whom he provided rides, complained about his frequent tardiness. Brown eventually advised Harris to find another ride to school, which infuriated Harris. Harris and Klebold had broken into a van on January 30th, 1998, and taken electrical supplies. They were later charged with larceny and criminal trespassing and sentenced to community service, counseling, and psychiatric care. Harris underwent anger management therapy as well, and he impressed his probation officer so much that their treatment program was completed a few months early. Harris appeared compliant when his court appearance was over. He stated, "I'm happy to say that with the help of this class and some other diversion-related experiences, I do want to try and control my anger," in his article on anger management. But he wrote nothing but rage and contempt at being charged in his private journal. Their run-in with the police made it clear that a parallel universe existed. While appearing to be repentant and changed, Harris and Klebold were united by a common rage. In Harris's yearbook from 1998, Klebold noted, "The incident from January will provoke my godlike anger. Not to mention the fact that we got back at them in the Commons, the Columbine cafeteria." Although Harris had taken the death threats off his website following his and Klebold's court appearance, he started posting information on his bomb making, gun collection, and even a hit list of particular people he meant to kill in his and Klebold's impending bloodbath. Eric Harris applied for the U.S. Marine Corps at one point, but was rejected because he was on antidepressants. The theme of violence was prevalent in Harris and Klebold's academic work. Together, they created the film Hitmen for Hire, in which they pretended to be mercenaries hired by a harassed kid to go around the school's corridors shooting pupils who bothered their client. They yelled at the camera and threatened to murder anyone who bothered their former client at the end of the video. They both created videos where they discussed their intentions and penned violent scenarios for their creative writing assignments. Since all of these tapes were made in Harris's basement, they would ultimately come to be known as the Basement Tapes. They bid goodbye to their parents and made a verbal will, listing friends and what they could have when they died. On one recording recorded just before the massacre. In the final entry of his notebook, Klebold penned a brief will. Robin Anderson was Klebold's prom date a few days before the shooting. Anderson bought the rifle and the shotguns that were used in the massacre because he was 18, the legal age in Colorado to purchase a firearm, while Harris and Klebold were only 17. They misled her by claiming that they had no malicious intentions and merely desired them for enjoyable activities, such as shooting or deer hunting. In less than 30 minutes, the shooting's events came to pass when Klebold and Harris arrived at the school at roughly 11:20 a.m. They initially entered the cafeteria with the duffel bags in hand, with no plans to start filming just yet. Each bag included a propane bomb that was timed to go off during the busiest lunch hour in the cafeteria. Klebold and Harris each left a rucksack at a meadow 3 miles from the school that contained small propane bombs, a pipe bomb, and spray canisters before they got there. These devices exploded partially, informing the authorities of Klebold and Harris's earlier actions, and then returned to the parking area to wait for them to go off. But as soon as they learned that the bombs haven't gone off, they started to return to the entrance to the school. A pipe bomb that Klebold threw into the parking lot that partially detonated signaled the start of the shooting by drawing the attention of nearby students who were on their lunch break. Many kids were perplexed and believed it to be a senior prank, while others noticed their trench coats and concealed weapons and started to flee the parking lot. A 17-year-old Rachel Scott was the first casualty of the massacre. She was shot while having lunch with a friend in front of the school. After entering the building, Klebold and Harris went to the cafeteria. When they first entered, they were shooting at students in the corridor who thought their weapons were paint gun guns and kept moving in their direction. Lance Kirkland, a sophomore who had been shot 4 times, was one of these students. As he lay on the ground pleading for assistance, Klebold stood over him and stated, "Sure, man, I'll help you," before shooting him in the face. Kirkland made it out alive, and as Klebold left, he said, "Sorry, man," according to Kirkland. While not firing at anyone, Klebold and Harris moved through the cafeteria. According to witnesses, they were laughing and yelling encouraging things like, "This is what we always wanted to do," as they made their way to the staircase leading up to the library, according to ABC News. A custodian staff member called the head deputy at this stage of the shooting to alert him that there were shooters inside the school. When Harris saw the law enforcement personnel, he rushed back to the entrance and started firing at the deputies who were helping 2 injured kids who were being rescued on a hilltop next to the school. After one of the deputies shot 3 rounds of his ammunition, they started firing back, and Harris fled back inside without injuring anyone. Klebold and Harris moved on to the library, where 52 students, 2 professors, and 2 librarians were sheltering. They had an agenda in the library, and they were specifically targeting students of color and everyone who participated in athletics at the school. Witnesses said that Harris declared, "Anybody with a white hat or sports emblem is dead," referring to the athletes' custom of donning white hats at Columbine High School. Many pupils made an effort to take off and conceal their white caps. Craig Scott, Matthew Ketchter, and Isaiah Shows, 3 students cowering under a table, were approached by Klebold. According to Scott, when Klebold found them and saw that Isaiah was black, he yelled,
"There's a nigger over here."
Later, after taunting Isaiah with more racial epithets, Klebold shot and killed him. Klebold and Harris killed 12 people and injured 10 more in the library. At approximately 11:36 a.m., they departed and started throwing pipe bombs down the hallway on their way back to the cafeteria. They made their way around the campus, storming down hallways and peeping into classrooms, before returning to the library, which was mostly vacant of pupils except for those who could not walk due to their injuries. The 49-minute rampage was put to an end at 12:08 p.m. when Harris and Klebold turned their firearms on themselves and shot themselves in the head, after engaging in third quick gunfire with the police and lighting a Molotov cocktail on a table. As I said, there were 12 people killed in the Columbine Massacre. It is important to remember the victims and not the perpetrators. Cassandra Bernal. 17-year-old Cassandra participated actively in church youth programs and Bible study groups as a born-again Christian as of 1997. Her parents referred to her as Bunny Rabbit and said Breckenridge was her favorite place to go rock climbing. Her favorite movie was Braveheart, and she had just returned from a trip to the UK. Stephen Kernau. A 14-year-old freshman, had a passion for flying and aspired to join the Navy. In addition, he adored soccer and was a die-hard Star Wars movie enthusiast. Corey DePuter. Corey was a 17-year-old outdoor enthusiast who enjoyed fishing, camping, golfing, and inline skating. He was a strong 6-foot-tall athlete. He was going to enlist in the Marines. Kelly Fleming. Kelly Fleming, a new student at Columbine, was a shy 16-year-old who enjoyed spending time in the library, writing poetry and short tales. She wanted to be an author. Matthew Ketchter. Matthew was a quiet, kind-hearted sophomore who played football and had straight A's in school. Daniel Mauser. Daniel, a high school sophomore who was intelligent but reserved, had just joined the debate team and the cross-country team. Daniel Roberg. A student in high school, enjoyed playing hockey and Nintendo with his pals. After school, he frequently assisted his father in his electrical store. Dave Sanders. Dave was a longtime Columbine instructor who also taught business and computer courses, and coached girls' basketball and softball. He had 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren when he passed away at the age of 47. Rachel Scott. Rachel Scott, a 17-year-old who enjoyed performing in plays and could play the piano by ear, was a devout Christian. Isaiah Scholes. A senior at the age of 18, overcame heart issues, 2 operations to play football and wrestle. John Tomlin. John was a 16-year-old boy who loved Chevy vehicles and had a kind heart. John went to Mexico a year before he was assassinated to assist in the construction of affordable housing. Lauren Townsend. Lauren was a senior in high school who enjoyed volleyball, Shakespeare, and animals. Kyle Velasquez. Kyle, a sophomore at Columbine who was 16 years old, had only attended the school for 3 months. He loved the Denver Broncos and was remembered by his family as a gentle giant. After the shooting, school children across the country were filled with fear. Additionally, while some schools in the United States instituted tougher security measures, such as bag checks and the installation of metal detectors, no official policy or legislation was adopted. On a local level, there have been numerous reports of PTSD and other mental health issues among survivors, as well as one suicide a year after the event, and the mother of another suicide 6 months later. With only 2 or 3 weeks left in the year, the school was closed for the remainder of the time. Students from a neighboring high school attended classes. The Columbine shooting raises several crucial questions regarding young mental health, gun violence, and what it could say about American culture.